Elon Musk sat in his minimalist office, overlooking the sprawling headquarters of one of his companies. His mind, usually preoccupied with revolutionary ideas, wandered into a different realm. Over the past year, he had become increasingly intrigued by the vast inequalities in society. Despite his immense success, something gnawed at him, a desire to understand, on a visceral level, the experiences of those less fortunate. He had heard countless stories of individuals who, despite their best efforts, found themselves overlooked or mistreated. A single thought sparked a bold idea: what if I could see the world through their eyes? He murmured to himself. The idea grew into a plan. Elon decided to disguise himself as a homeless man and visit various public spaces, observing how people treated him. He wanted to understand the nuances of human kindness or the lack of it. To make it authentic, he resolved to spend a full day as a homeless person. He called his trusted assistant, Maya, into his office. Maya, a no-nonsense problem solver, was initially skeptical but intrigued by his sincerity. "This isn't just a publicity stunt, right?" she asked, narrowing her eyes. "Absolutely not," Elon replied. "No one outside this room will know. This is about understanding society better and maybe learning how we can make a difference." Maya sighed, knowing that when Elon set his mind to something, there was no stopping him. Over the next week, she helped him craft a convincing disguise. They visited thrift stores for tattered clothes, a makeup artist to add realistic age lines and dirt smudges, and even a specialist to create a prosthetic nose that subtly altered his face. By the end of the transformation, Elon was unrecognizable. His usual confident demeanor was replaced with a haggard slouch, and he practiced speaking in a softer, raspy tone. On a crisp Tuesday morning, Elon set out in his new persona. He carried a small, weathered backpack with a few essentials: a blanket, a water bottle, and a notebook to jot down his observations. He wandered through the bustling streets of the city, eventually finding a cozy, family-owned cafe nestled between modern glass towers. Its sign read, "Sarah's Corner Cafe." Elon hesitated for a moment before stepping inside. The air was filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and baked goods. The decor was simple but inviting, with mismatched chairs and warm lighting. A chalkboard menu displayed a range of affordable items. Behind the counter stood Sarah, a woman in her early 40s with kind eyes and an apron dusted with flour. As Elon shuffled in, heads turned. A few customers exchanged uncomfortable glances. A man in a suit wrinkled his nose and leaned away from Elon as he passed. Elon felt a pang of self-consciousness but reminded himself to stay in character. He approached the counter slowly, hesitating as he looked up at Sarah. Excuse me," he said, his voice barely audible. "I don't have any money, but I was wondering if you had anything extra I could eat." Sarah studied him for a moment. Elon braced himself for rejection. Instead, she smiled warmly. "Of course. Have a seat, and I'll bring you something." He nodded gratefully and sat at a table near the window. The other customers avoided looking at him, but Elon could feel their judgment. He took out his notebook and began scribbling, noting the contrast between Sarah's kindness and the aloofness of the others. A few minutes later, Sarah brought him a steaming bowl of soup, a slice of bread, and a cup of coffee. "Here you go," she said, placing the food in front of him. "Take your time." "Thank you," Elon said, genuinely moved. He hadn't expected such generosity. As he ate, he observed the cafe's atmosphere. Most patrons seemed to be regular office workers, students, and families. A group of teenagers chatted loudly at one table, while an elderly couple shared a pot of tea at another. However, one customer stood out. A well-dressed man in his 50s was glaring at Elon from across the room. After a while, the man approached Sarah at the counter. "Are you seriously serving him?" he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "People like that shouldn't be here. They make the place look bad." Sarah's face flushed, but she remained calm. "Sir, everyone is welcome here," she said firmly. "If that's a problem for you, I'm sorry, but this isn't the place for you." The man scoffed and stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Elon watched the exchange with admiration. Sarah's quiet courage impressed him. She hadn't just defended him, she had stood up for the values she believed in. As the day went on, Elon struck up conversations with other customers. A young woman named Lily, who was studying at the cafe, shared her dream of becoming a social worker. A middle-aged man named Carlos, who worked as a janitor, talked about the struggles of raising two kids on a tight budget. Elon listened intently, taking mental notes about their stories and perspectives. By evening, the cafe had quieted down. Sarah's young son, Ethan, was doing his homework at a corner table. As Elon got up to leave, Ethan approached him. "Mister, are you really homeless?" he asked innocently. Elon hesitated, caught off guard. Before he could respond, Sarah called Ethan back. "Don't bother the customers, honey," she said gently. Elon smiled and waved goodbye, leaving the cafe with a mix of emotions. The experience had been both humbling and enlightening. He decided to return the next day, not as a homeless man, but as himself.